one thing that we are going to do, we're going to be on our knees a little bit. Not a lot, but for a couple of poses. And if you have tender knees, you can take a towel and roll it up and put it underneath your knees so that your patella, your kneecap, is over the top of it so that you're getting all the weight into your tibia, which will make it a lot easier on you. We're going to do the first yin pose is going to be hero. So you're going to be sitting back on your sit bones like this, and that might be challenging for your knees. You can always use a rolled up towel behind your knees also. That acts like putting a wedge in a door, so it opens up the distance between your tibia and your femur. And that sometimes helps a little bit. You can also use a block to sit on, and 2 blocks, 3 blocks, whatever. Also, one of the poses that we're going to do is a reclining swan. And so your sacrum is going to be the target for a block. And your sacrum is that, well, it's 5 vertebrae that fused together before you were age 30. It's now one piece, and it's just below your hip points. So the block wants to be right here. You don't want the block up on your back, and you don't want the block right at the base of your pelvis, because that will injure your back. So that's how hit on the prep. What happened to my music? Is it playing? Oh, sure. Hopefully that will go. If not, I'll forget about it and we'll have it go. Okay, my name is Clint and this is Yin Yoga, starting with balance. So to start, we always start standing up. You can go against the wall. And that's always a good idea if you feel a little bit unsteady. So start off by getting your feet about hip width apart. Stand up straight, chest high, crown of your head up towards the ceiling. Isometrically drag your feet toward each other. That will engage all the muscles of your legs. And then let's do this. Grab your block. Always like doing this. Okay, take the block the narrow way and put it right up as high as you can get so that you'll have to take your block home with you tonight. Okay, so come back and miraculously your feet are hip width apart. So from here, come back to Tadasana, drag your feet together. It's a little harder to do with that block resisting. And then take your upper inner thighs and rotate them towards the back like you're trying to shoot the block out behind you. And you can probably feel that move a little bit, probably not much. And from there, tuck your tailbone under. That tilts your pelvis back. and gives your spine that nice little reverse arch, just like it's supposed to. From here again, stretch the crown of your head up, and then lift your shoulders up, roll them back, your shoulder blades kiss, and then they gradually float down your back towards your hips. Notice what direction your palms are pointing. Some of you will have your palms facing forward, others will be down towards your hips. Really doesn't matter. Everybody's a little bit different. And from here, maybe you want to let your eyes close if you're comfortable enough and steady enough. Breathe in and out through your nose. Then open up your eyes. Look down at your feet. If your toes aren't spread, lift your toes up, spread them as wide as you can, and place them back down. Did you notice how much wider the distance is between your toes? Oh, from outside to your big toe. So maybe just bring your toes together, and then just while you're looking, lift your toes up, spread them wide, and then place your toes down. You gain another quarter inch or so, maybe not even that much, but that does a really big difference in the way that you sense your balance. And there are three things required for balance. That's strength, to keep you from falling forward or to the side, because your muscles will seize and make sure that you don't go over. You need flexibility, because if your foot doesn't move easily, then you'll go over. And the last thing you need is practice. You need a lot of practice, because your balance is part of your autonomic system, nervous system, the unconscious system that works without your intervention. The only way you can train that is by practice. So from here, you can remove the blocks, set that aside. We're going to start by just leaning forward about as maximum that you can towards the front of the room. And just about when you start to lose your balance coming forward, that means your center of gravity is right over the tip of your toes. And then come back up. And then go to the back a little bit. Now this is a little more challenging because obviously you don't have toes on that side. That's why falling backwards is so much more shocking and happens more often. Come back forward, come over to the right. Then maybe lift that left foot up a little bit and continue leaning over. If you fall out, that's okay. That's what's intended. But feel the muscles that you're using. And bring your feet back down. Bring your weight into your left foot. Lean to the left. Lift that right foot up. And you're doing all this without even thinking about it. It's your body's fascia that is responding to the stimulus of your muscles changing the amount of tension. Come back to to center. Back to Tadasana. It's always a starting point. Lift your toes, spread them wide, place them down. And then from here, rise up on your toes, on your tiptoes. Now try drawing your feet together isometrically. Well, first off, if you're having issues like I am, bend your knees a little bit. See how much difference that does. If you have a micro bend in your knees, it's easier to maintain your balance. Maybe try to force your feet outward. Then come back down. Move your toes out, your feet out at about 90 degrees or 45 degrees each side. Come up onto your toes and feel those muscles that are engaged here. Are they the same as when your toes were pointed straight ahead? Your different calf muscles, ankle muscles are engaged. Then come down. Now try to get your feet with your toes facing straight out, like you're doing a plie. And then come up onto your toes. Can't remember the finger position that my daughters taught me when we were in ballet. But again, this is all, you're feeling different parts of your legs. And you come down. Get your ball. One of the most important parts of balance is the bottom of your foot. And last week we had a lady who had really bad plantar fasciitis. And so that's why we're doing this. But anyway, take your ball and bring the ball of your big foot, yes. I have little feet, so right underneath your big toe. And put quite a bit of weight on it. And try to grip the ball with your toes. And then gently move it towards the second toe, the ball, the pad of the second toe, and then the third. Just leisurely going across all the way to the pinky toe. And then come back. What you're doing here is you're starting to stimulate the plantar fascia on the bottom of your foot that ties into the bones just below the pads. And then move it back and forth a little bit quicker. And then just push the ball forward so it's right in front of your heel. Not on your heel, but just in front. Your heel comes down and your plantar fascia comes into the side of it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to walk. It would hurt so much that your tendon would be impacting the ground. So from here, again, bring as much weight as you can. You don't have to pretend you're in high heels, but put quite a bit of weight. You're trying to discover any trigger points that you might have. And a trigger point is where your fascia or your muscles, in this case, you don't have any muscles down there, but that's a point where the tissues are a little confused or they're out of alignment. Roll it back and forth. And if you find a trigger point, pause there. And then draw the ball back, put it underneath the ball, the big toe again, and then just roll your foot forward until the ball comes back to your heel. Then draw the ball back and do that on the second toe. And the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. Sixth. And if you find any points that really react, pause there, take a deep cleansing breath to calm your body. And then keep the pressure on. And then just bring your weight up a little bit and just do whatever crazy motion on the bottom of your foot. Make it a little bit of a massage. And then switch to the other foot. Try to grip that ball. And this foot may be significantly different than the other foot. You may have stubbed that big toe 5 or 6 times too many, stepping through into a warrior. I know I have. So you don't have the full range of motion. But this helps. Roll back and forth. And then bring that ball to just in front of your heel. And again, bring the weight in. And just go back and forth. And then draw the ball to the big toe pad and then push the ball forward with your foot. And notice whatever sensations you have. You may find that there's a tight spot. Pause there. Linger. That lingering really helps your foot health. Your fascia never gets any blood, but it does get a lot of water. And so this will draw more water into the bottom of your foot and increase the flexibility of your foot. And then just make the random motions. And then step off. Move your ball away. And then the one thing I really like to do, if you've ever had shin splints, that's not very enjoyable. One way to practically eliminate that is lift your toes and the balls of your feet up and walk on your heels forward. Just do a couple of laps around your mat, taking short steps. What you're doing is you're stretching the bottom of your feet, and your Achilles. And we'll make you really eager for this next pose. Okay, so now the first pose that we're going to do in Yin is going to be Dragonfly. So for Dragonfly, I'm going to highly recommend sitting on a block. Even if you don't normally use a block, I'm going to start you off if you're sitting on a block, get your sit bones right on the front edge of the block. So it feels like you're about to fall off, but you won't. Now, Dragonfly is a stratus, so your legs typically would be wide, and they should be, but not at the maximum. And then bend your knees. Bring your footprints onto the floor, onto the mat, whatever is appropriate for you, and lift your chest high. Now, what I'm going to do that's a little bit different is bring your arms out to T, and bring your hands behind you, interlace your fingers, and push down and lift your chest high. That arches your back a little bit. And doing this earlier, I discovered that I can't fold forward like that, but you can keep your hips this way. So release that grip and bring your hands between your legs. Now, arch the lower part of your back, your spine. And from here, begin to walk your hands forward. What you're doing when you arch your back, you're tipping your pelvis forward. It's just a different way of getting there. You've heard me suggest the moon, the person behind you. Well, that's the same motion. You're tipping your pelvis forward. And when you get to the right extension for you, pause there. Take a deep cleanse of breath in through your nose. Exhale it out through your nose. And let your breath come to its own natural rhythm, in and out through your nose. Notice where the sensations are. And use your breath to direct more oxygen, more blood flow to those areas. The objective in Yin is to stretch into a pose just enough so that your muscles can then soften. And as your muscles soften, the tension from your body position is transferred into your fascia. That tension in your fascia triggers sensations at the joints. And the stem cells that you're producing in your body that roam throughout your body looking for work to do will find where the sensations are greatest, where the need is greatest, and it will help create new cells or elongate existing cells, giving you more space inside your own body and more flexibility and mobility. If you wish, you can always bend your elbows. Maybe bring your palms facing upward, but resting on the mat. letting your spine round, letting your head help elongating your spine. Soften your shoulders here. This should be stretching, stimulating your groins, a little bit of your hamstrings, backs of your calves, which are your gastrocnemius muscles, essentially your biceps, and your legs. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, sit back upright. Bring your legs out in front. If you're on a block, carefully remove it. Bring your hands behind your hips. Put your footprints down. And before you start to windshield wiper, feel where the sensations are, so that you know what muscles are being engaged here, what muscles need the counter pose. And they may be different from what you were expecting. The next time you come to center, pause. From here, straighten your legs out to the front of the room, push your heels away. Come down onto your elbows, all the way down onto your back. Lift your arms up towards the ceiling. And then lift your arms, just rotate all the way down towards the far wall and stretch from your heels to your palms, from your toenails to your fingernails. Then return your hands next to your hips. Walk your footprints up towards your sit bones. Find your block. And your block has 3 different sizes. You want the flat direction, the flat dimension to go onto the mat. You want the long dimension to go left to right underneath your sacrum. So from here, on an inhale, tuck your tailbone under, lift your hips up there. Place the block underneath your sacrum and carefully lower back down. Then lift your right foot up onto the ceiling, push your heel away. Put that footprint into the ceiling. And then bend that right knee. Bring your right ankle over your thigh like a gentleman sitting. And from here, reach your right hand between your legs, lifting your left knee up. Maybe you grab the back of your left thigh, make a bind with your hands, drawing that left knee into your chest. Or maybe if you have longer arms, you can just reach for your chin. And as you draw your knee into your chest, there are lots of options here. The targets of this pose are your not hamstrings, are your glutes and your hip side. And from this position, you can literally dial in exactly where you want to feel this by moving your knee a little bit to the left, and then pull in a little bit more, and you can feel where this pose is hitting your glute in a different place. Likewise, you can move that knee way up to the right so that your foot is almost coming off of your thigh, and you feel them in a different place. Find what's good for you at this moment. And then just hold it and relax. After a while, this pose may feel too challenging. And if that's the case, just back up. Maybe move that right foot up closer to the knee. Or maybe you just release the tension, some of the tension, from pulling that left knee into your chest. On the other hand, if the pose has become too easy, you can always intensify. Move your heel, your right heel down towards your hip crease. There's lots of flexibility here. Know that any time in any class where the pose is swan in a yin class or pigeon in a hatha class, you can always come onto your back and do this pose in lieu of having your knee on the mat and suffering potential twisting of your knee. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next exhale, release your bind. Allow your left foot to come down to the mat. Stretch your right foot up towards the ceiling again, pushing that heel away. And lowering the foot. When you're ready, lift your hips and move the block Returning back down onto the mat. You draw your knees into your chest and rock from left to right. Or maybe make some circles with your knees. First one direction, and then the other. The next pose is going to require being on hands and knees, and the easiest way to get there for many is just to cross your ankles and rock forwards and backwards. If that doesn't work for you, you can always go along to your right side and use your left hand to push the floor away. Coming up through seated, and coming over into table. And every opportunity you have doing table, do a couple of cat-cows. And then next time you come to center, pause. From here, just walk your hands back, coming into hero. Bring your heels back onto your hips back onto your heels. If you want to sit up on a block, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. But don't make it such a challenge. Again, you don't want to be engaging your muscles. You want your muscles to be able to soften. So use a block so that you can sit. That way you'll get a nice stretch in your quads and sit upright. And once you have a place that works for you, allow your eyes to close, and it's very smart. If it just isn't going to work, just come out of the pose and get into Sukhasana or a comfortable seated position. From here, allow your eyes to close. Let your chin come toward your chest. And then begin to bend your head so that your right ear comes towards your right shoulder. Make sure that you can feel this stretch from your ear, your left ear down to your left shoulder. And then continue going around. Be careful you're not overstretching your neck. And then come with your left ear towards your left shoulder. And then bring your chin back down towards your sternum. Inhale, come all the way back up. Your ankles are getting a nice stretch here. Bring your chin back down to your chest. And we'll take this neck stretch the opposite direction, towards the left, because your muscles react differently. You have different muscles. And if you hear some snap, crackle, pops, that's the fascia between your little tiny neck muscles that are holding on to each other. And by giving movement, you're allowing your body to melt those away and walk all the way back up. You can get out of this silly position and just come forward into table. But then it gets even harder. for some of us. Look between your legs. If you can see your feet, move your feet wider. And then from here, this is a toe stretch. So maybe you can walk your knees back 1/8 of an inch, 1/16 of an inch, maybe not. And then begin to bring your weight back. And be very careful. Curl your toes under. And what maybe you can do, although it's hard to see, you can probably reach them. And you notice that your pinky toe might not be as engaged as your big toe, which is natural, but you want some stretch there. This again is really good for plantar fasciitis. And an alternative to this is to go up against the wall, bring your toes up against the wall. First off, let's stop the agony. Walk your hands forward. And then bring your toenails down. And maybe you want to tap them. My toes are always a little bit too sensitive to tap much, but I like to roll them back and forth. But do what works for you. But up against the wall, or up against a block at the wall, your toes are intended to be able to bend up 90 degrees. Whoa! That's what your physical therapist will tell you, right? And so one foot might be different than the other. But if you have plantar fasciitis, that's a good way to get into it. Okay, from here, a couple more cat-cows. And then come to center. Bring your left arm out to the side and lift it up, twisting. We're going into thread the needle. On an exhale, take that left hand behind your right wrist, way over to the side. Now, if you have a sore shoulder, you may want to just bring your fist towards your right armpit and come down onto your shoulder if you can. You can use a cushion. You can straighten out that right leg if you wish. Stretch it towards the back of the room. Maybe bring your toes down onto the mat. You can always crab walk your right hand towards the front of the mat to open up that right shoulder. Now, these are all modifications or intensifications that may work or may not. You don't have to do any of them. It's always good to test, discover what it feels like with your body. Doing the same thing every time may not be right. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your right hand back next to your face. And then on an inhale, Push the floor away with your right hand. Release the left. Out and up overhead. And then come back down into table. Do a couple more cat-cows. They thought the class was 5 to 6. And the next time you come to center pause, from here, walk your knees back and walk your elbows forward and come into Sphinx. Down on your belly, but bring your elbows underneath your shoulders and your palms down. Lift your chest high. And your gaze should be on your mat somewhere between your hands. That way your neck won't get overstretched. Bring your toenails to the floor. You can bring your knees close together or a little bit farther apart, doesn't really matter. From here, isometric, first off, push your toenails into the ground, lifting up your knees. Isometrically drag your elbows towards your hips. You can probably feel this in your core, your rectus abdominis, your 8-pack, 6-pack. And then slowly release those muscles. And as you release them, maybe you can feel individual fibers releasing in sequence. Because every muscle is built up of multiple fibers. Soften your thighs. Soften your glutes, your lower belly. Your lower back. And finally, let your head just bow forward. Maybe move your head a little bit left to right to make sure that you're not hiding any tension. Make sure your jaw is not clenched. And then on your exhale, lower all the way down, crossing your forearms, using your forearms as a pillow. And bring your right knee up towards your right elbow into half frog. Give your back a little bit of a counter pose. The twist really helps out your spine, and it's been in a back bend. Or a front bend, forward fold. And then on your next inhale, return your right foot to meet the left. Come back up onto your elbows. And you can make a modification, an intensification if you wish. You can bring your feet out wide to see if that feels better for you. If you've tried that and you don't like it, don't do it. Maybe you want to bring your palms out to the corners of your mat. You get a little bit different sensation in your shoulders. And then push your toenails into the mat again, lifting up your heel, or your heels too. Your knees. Isometrically lengthen your spine by dragging your elbows towards your hips. trying to lengthen your spine and then release it into a back bend. So when you're ready, begin to soften your knees, your calves, your toes. Feel your belly coming down. Maybe you can feel the specific vertebrae, those 2 or 3 that are getting the most amount of tension. On back bends, it's normally your vertebrae, the bones that will touch the adjacent ones, and that limits the amount of back bend that you get. And then on your next exhale, release, come forward, cross your arms, turn your head the opposite direction, and bring your left knee up towards your left elbow. On your next inhale, you lift the back knee to the right. Bring your hands next to your chest. Push the floor away. Coming up into table. Do a couple more cat cows. And the next time you come to center, pause. Bring your right arm out to the side and then up. Coming into thread the needle with your right arm. So bring your right arm behind the left wrist, way over to the left side. Coming down onto your shoulder, maybe your cheek. Maybe onto a towel or a blanket so that you can raise the floor underneath your shoulder. Give yourself a little bit more space. And sometimes you just want to stay in a tight twist here like this. And other times you want to stretch out and walking your left arm forward and your left back. Don't feel like you're missing anything. Pay attention to your own body and feel your muscles softening. But that's the real practice. Taking your breath. On your next exhale, walk your hand back towards your face. Bring your knee down. And then, when you're ready, retrieve that right arm by pushing the left hand into the floor, out and up. And then back into table. A couple more cat-cows. Next time you come to center, pause. Come down onto your favorite hip. Swing your feet around to the front of the mat. We're going to do caterpillar. So caterpillar is a forward fold. As always, I'm going to use a block underneath my sit bones, so you don't have to. Your feet can be right together, they can be farther apart. And if you never put them hip width apart, try it. Might be to your benefit. From here, lift your chest high. And now just so that you can feel the difference, arch your lower back and feel your pelvis tip. You feel that. And if you can feel that, arch your back and then walk your hands forward. You might be able to come a little bit farther. Your hands on opposite sides of your legs to start until you get to the stretch that's good for you. And getting your chest onto your knees is not the target. Getting your collarbones reaching towards your feet and the crown of your head towards the far wall. That's the target. Yin Yoga is not a pose-directed practice. It's a sensation-directed practice. It's intended to have the most influence on your fascia. And you can direct it as you see fit. Once you get into a position that feels good, just pause there. Let everything go. Maybe you can just relax your feet and your toes will come forward. The first time I ever did that, I thought I was cheating. But it's just common sense for what's best for you at that moment. Remember, if this gets a little easy for you, you can always stretch a little more. And then inhale, just come up a little bit. And then on your exhale, draw your collarbones closer towards the front of the mat. Let your head bow again. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, walk your hands back, raising up your chest, coming over on, removing a block. Bring your hands behind your hips and your feet down on the mat. Windshield wiper your knees from side to side. See how different it is this time. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, come down onto your elbows, all the way down onto your back. Make sure you have a block nearby. Stretch your heels away, your palms away. Bend your toes and your fingers. You turn your hands down by your side. And walk your feet up towards your sit bones. Getting ready for that reverse or the reclining swan. So tuck your tailbone under when you're ready. Inhale up. Place the block underneath your sacrum. And gently come back down. Bring your left foot up onto the ceiling. Push the heel away. Feel your hamstring. And then bend that left knee. Bring the ankle over your right thigh. And drawing that thigh into your chest. Making a line behind the right thigh. Maybe using a strap. You remember all those modifications. That you might have done on the right leg can be done on the left. But your left leg may feel like it belongs to a different creature. So do what's right for that leg. But then if it becomes too easy, increase the tension. You know the different tricks available. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next exhale, release your mind. Allow that right foot to come down to the mat. Lift the left foot up, stretch it towards the ceiling, and then bring it down next to the right. On an inhale, lift your hips up, remove the block, set it aside, bring your knees into your chest, and rock from left to right. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, release your right leg out to the front of the mat, push your right heel away, and draw that left knee into your chest. Holding on to that knee with your right arm, bring your left arm way out to the side. And then on an exhale, hold on to your right side, bring that left knee out to the right into spinal twist. Now you can straighten out that left leg if you wish to give an IT band stretch. In today's class, you stretch your hip flexors, almost all of your other leg muscles. Why not the IT band? That IT band attaches to the top of your tibia, just below your knee, and then comes on the outside of the knee. And then it gets kind of absorbed in between your glutes. There's very little muscle and an awful lot of tendon. And it's crucial for people who walk and run, play pickleball, hike, bike. Feel this stretch across your chest, your left pecs. Probably can't feel your serratus muscles. Those are the muscles on the front side of your lower ribs that attach back to your left shoulder. Those muscles stabilize your shoulder blades. Soften your lower abdomen. Soften your glutes. If your left glutes are really engaged, and maybe just take that left hand and reach up and just stroke it for just a moment and see if that doesn't allow your muscle to soften. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your knees back to center. Come on to your back. Draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Maybe make circles on the ceiling with your knees. Make sure you go the opposite direction. The next time you come to center, pause. Release your your left leg out to the front of the mat. Push your heel away, drawing your right knee into your chest. And then holding on to that right knee with your left hand. Bring your right arm out to the side. And on an exhale, you're choosing, roll onto your left side into a spinal twist, gazing back over towards your right arm, your right hand. And if you wish, you can always straighten out that right leg. Or maybe not. If you did one side, you don't have to do the other side. That's the great thing about this being your practice. If your body gets a benefit from a modification, choose that. Then use the tricks that you use to soften on the other side, to soften on this side. Soften your lower abdomen. Soften your glutes. Soften your mula bandhas. Those are your pelvic floor muscles. If your foot is in the air, try to guide it down or put a block under it. If you have an arm or a leg that's bouncing in the wind, responding only to gravity, those muscles are not able to soften because they will be hard for you. Begin to deepen your breath. On your next inhale, bring your knees back to center. Roll onto your back. Draw your knees into your chest one more time. And rock from left to right, massaging your spine, all the way from your hip and shoulder on one side to your hip and shoulder on the other. And the next time you come to center, pause. From here, release one leg out to the front corner of your mat, and then the other. Push your heels away. Maybe rock your hips a little bit, left to right. Finding that perfect spot for your pelvis and your sacrum. Arms can come out by your side
It can come way out to the side, or even out up towards the far wall. Whatever works for you at this moment. Lift your head an inch, tuck your chin under, stretch your neck long, and carefully lower your head back down, giving your neck a bit of traction. You take a deep cleansing breath in through your nose, and exhaling it out through your nose. Another in through your nose, out through your nose. And take rest. I'm going to come around and adjust each of you, so if you don't want me to touch you, just wave me away when you hear my footprints. Just relax. Begin to deepen your breath. Bring your awareness back into your space. Bring movement to your fingers and to your toes, to your wrists, and to your ankles. Gently roll your head from left to right. And when you're ready, walk your footprints up towards your sit bones and draw your knees into your chest. Give yourself a squeeze. Massage your spine by rocking from left to right. And then the next time you come over towards your right side, pause there in fetal pose for just a moment and do a scan of your body to determine if there's any residual tension that you will need to address later this week. And then using your left hand, push the floor away and rise up to a seated position. Thank you for sharing your yoga practice with me this afternoon. It really is nice to have a nice, small, intimate class. Take the compassion and peace that you practice on your mat. Take that everywhere you go and share it with your family, your friends, and those others you may meet. Namaste. My name is Clint, and this has been Yin Yoga. Thanks for coming.